one song prior to the last song sounded like it was Irish. It was great. I like that a lot. Yeah. Good tune. All right. I slept in the church last night just in case the weather was bad. Now, see, it's really not true. I didn't do much sleeping. But I did get a lot of writing done. As a matter of fact, I threw some of it away, but that was fun. I won't be able to use everything I wrote, but this was going to be your sermon. But, yeah, I'm that, what do they call it, drunk, tired feeling? That's what it's like. It's like, yeah, I could go to sleep now. But this is a good day. Alan had this thing that he showed me back there that was really funny. I thought it was funny, so I asked him if he'd show everybody here. Read right there. Heaven has a wall, gates, and a strict immigration policy. Hell has open borders. Let that sink in. I thought that was kind of funny. I think. But should we take off? Oh, you can take it down now, which just cracks me up. So they're doing Snapchat and Instagram, right? Yeah, so we need to figure out how to do that too. Huh? Twitter? They're killing me. They're killing me. In our house is all antiques. I wired up an old phone that you dial, and we can use it. The only thing is it pops a lot, but it works. So we've shown our grandkids how to dial a rotary phone. Hangs on the wall. All right. There's a lot of information. I'm probably not going to cover everything today. We're going to pray before we start, and then I'm going to start walking you in here. I think it's going to be good. Personalities and understanding communication is what life's all about. Everything is relationship. It's good to learn this stuff. It's good to rethink about it even if you've already learned it. So let's pray real quick, and I'll start giving you some info that you can use. Lord, thank you for the day. I'm glad it didn't snow and get real bad out, at least not in our area. Thank you for the fact that we are able to come and worship. Lord, thank you for the fact that there are people who are drawn to you with passion. Lord, I pray that we would be a blessing to you today, that we would be a blessing to those in this community that don't know you. And Lord, thank you for our families. Meet the needs of those that are in our church that need financial help and support. Lord, meet their emotional needs. Lord, just be God in their lives. We ask this according to your will. Amen. Most of what I have here, I learned years ago from Gary Smalley and Dr. John Trent. It's tried and proven. It's good stuff. And I suggest to you that if you haven't studied some of their stuff, you should. You should. Both Gary and Dr. Trent did a very good job. One of the areas they did real good in, not only in just marriage counseling type things, but the personality traits. They did a real good job. I don't know if you've seen the personality traits defined as, are you familiar with what those are? There's 4 of them. No? They had fun with it and did a lion, golden retriever, otter, and a beaver to identify the 4 personality traits. There are 4. It's universal. Everybody has one dominant personality trait. They have a secondary usually that is there. They've even found some cases where there have been people who've had up to 4, which is rare, very rare, which that person would be really difficult to deal with. But if you look at the Gospels, it's fascinating. How many Gospels are there? Look at each one of them. They're different. Each one of them is from a different personality standpoint. Just interesting to me. I think God communicates to all of us the way we need to be communicated to. As I go through this marriage stuff, and we'll get back to the personality traits because you do need to know it. It's part of it. I want to say this so you know. There is There are situations where the marriage situation has issues from the past that negatively affect it. You also have people that are divorced that'll sit in these conferences. And the principles always apply. But you have to remember that if you're dealing with mental trauma or mental illness or drug or alcohol addictions, these principles will not help you. They can help you because you've got a deeper issue going on that needs to be dealt with. What will happen is the principles I give you, if you don't deal with the deeper issues, they'll discourage you. Actually, they'll make you get depressed about your situations. So my suggestion is if you really and truly want to have a healthy, vibrant, relational existence with God and with others, you need to deal with whatever issue is tearing you apart. You have to deal with it. And ignoring it won't make it go away. And a lot of people will just ignore it and just hope that things will get better. No. I wish I had it with me. I don't. I saw a great statement where it said there's a time, and I'm not doing it justice. It was said way better than what I'm going to say it. There is a time to pray and not act, but there's also a time to act and forego the prayer. You got to move forward. You can't just keep praying about it. You got to do something about it. You have to move. And one of the things that happens to us, I didn't put my belt on today, so I'm going to be doing this a lot. One of the things that you have to get in the habit of doing is looking very honestly at who you are and where you are in your life and what's going on. If you don't, you're never going to be happy. If you're not honest with yourself about who you are, and if you're not honest with whatever it is that's stopping you from developing healthy relationships, you're going to live your life out lacking. Give me Deuteronomy. I want to show you something. And now, I'm not pulling this out of context because it still remains the same even with us. Now, in this case, Israel is being taken to the promised land, okay? And God is telling them how to think and function. I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore, choose life that you and your offspring may live, loving the Lord your God, obeying his voice, and holding fast to him. For he is your life and length of days, that you may dwell in the land that the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give them. Now, there is a lot being said there. One of the things is the word there for life literally has this meaning to it of moving towards something, moving towards. The word death there has a meaning of moving away from life. Blessing has to do with like monetary value. Yeah, like weights when you measured. They didn't have money like we have now. You had metals that were coin, and sometimes they would shave them in weights. So right there where it talks about blessings, it's talking about value. Okay? And then curses is talking about, and this is always interesting to me, it is best described as like a dam damming up water. It stops the flow of. It restricts what's flowing. So God says, therefore choose life, that you and your offspring may live, loving the Lord your God, obeying his voice, and holding fast to him. I love the word fast. Get a hold of him. One of the hardest things I've found in marriage counseling and dealing with the issue of relationship is getting people to understand that they will have a greater odds of survival. They have greater blessing, greater life, greater joy when they get a hold of God and hang on to him for dear life and do what he tells you to do. Do you know the whole Bible tells you how to live, to have life? And again, I talked to lots and lots of people over the years who, instead of starting with that base element, that needs to be fixed, they'll go after all the other ones. It's kind of like this. John Trent did this illustration. He said it's like driving a car. And the best way to drive a car is to make little adjustments as you're driving. Little corrections to make things go right. The problem is when somebody will be doing something like, in his story, he talks about falling asleep driving. And he goes, when he finally wakes up and he realizes he's in a crisis now, you jerk the wheel, which makes the car flip over and roll. And it crashes everything. That's how most people deal with their relationships. Take me to Song of Solomon. Now, you know it's a love story. Basically, it's Solomon dialoguing with someone he loves, and she's dialoguing back with him. If you've never studied the Song of Solomon, you should. It's excellent. Most people have no idea what this is talking about. Catch the foxes for us, the little foxes that spoil the vineyards, for our vineyards are in blossom. Now here it is. It's genius. I love this stuff. She is saying to Solomon that we have some issues that we need to deal with. Little issues. The little foxes they couldn't stand up high enough to get the fruit off the top. The bigger foxes could. So the little ones would chew at the root of the vine and kill it. She's saying, isn't that neat? She's saying to Solomon, let's deal with the small problems we have in our relationship. Otherwise, it's going to destroy the vine eventually. That's wisdom. I found that when relationships start, more often than not, they start for the wrong reason. Mine did. When Susan and I got married, it was not for the right reason. It was codependency. It was the fact that it was a shotgun wedding. But that's not a reason. I mean, you should do it, but it's not. The reason to get married is to have a relationship that's not needy, that's not selfish, that's not demanding, not codependent, meaning you're literally drowning your partner because you have such deep needs. It's about falling in love with somebody and fulfilling the covenant statement that you made at that altar. It's like getting two pieces of paper together with glue and gluing them together to where they become one. What happens when you try to take two pieces of paper apart that have been glued together? It shreds it. It's one of the best word pictures I've heard of what marriage actually is. You become, according to Scripture, one flesh. One flesh. You become one person. It's no longer you and them. It's us. We. So like in the case of Susan and I, it's our marriage, it's our relationship. It is not her against me. It is not me against her. It is us together against whatever is out there that is not. Or, you see, you get the point? It's us together that have to work together. Most relationships, what happens is when you get married, the problems start happening. And why do the problems happen? Because one sinner just married another sinner. That's why the problems happen. What happens, though, is in relationships is one of the sinners thinks they know the better way. Or both of them think they know the better way. So they try to force the other sinner to do things the way they think things should be done. Eventually what happens is they start wearing each other down. One becomes bitter, the other one just shuts up. Or there's all kinds of things that starts to happen. I won't talk anymore. I can't talk to you anymore. And instead of addressing a problem together, they assault each other as if each other is the problem. Are you with me? One of the difficulties that occurs is, number one, when we go into relationship, we don't understand how to actually love each other correctly. We usually have motives that are incorrect, not godly motives, but our own motives. For instance, I love this statement, love is a decision. If you're living your relationships out on feelings, you're making a terrible mistake. If you're living your relationship out with the choice to love, you're making the right decision. Just think how God loved you. As a matter of fact, look at it from this standpoint, and this was really good. I wish I could take credit for all of these illustrations, but I can't. But your ring has value, and that value is determined by individuals. Gary Smalley used to hold up this big glass diamond, and he would say to everybody, "What's this worth?" And everybody's like, "Well, we know that's obviously a fake glass diamond." And he goes, "Yeah, but to me it's worth $1 million. So the value of it is the value you put on it. Now think about this. This is so cool. So God valued you so much that he actually paid the ultimate price to have a relationship with you. And I think he overpaid. What do you think? You think he overpaid? Just look at her. So relationship involves determining the value. What value you put on your relationship will be demonstrated in how much you're willing to sacrifice for that relationship. Think about it. The value you put on it is how hard you will work to save it. It takes a lot sometimes. I am extremely grateful for my wife not stopping, but trying to stop me staying at it. The most effective thing she did was her relationship to God intensified. Now don't miss that. I don't think I gave you this one. Galatians 1:6, I think is what it is. Galatians 1:6, or 16. 1:16, I think. I think that's where it is. No. Colossians. It's Colossians 1:16, isn't it? That was good, Rob. I'm sorry. No, wait a minute. Was there a veiled statement there? Oh, there it is. Okay. Now think about what he's saying here. For by him all things were created in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All things were created through him and for him. Next one, please. One more. Alan, you be nice to me. For by him all things were created in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones, dominions, or rulers, or authorities. All things were created through him and for him, and he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. Now, if Jesus is keeping the atoms in your body from exploding, which is what they're trying to do in essence, if he's that concerned about that, his intention is to hold whatever relationship he establishes. Now, don't miss this. When you stand, and this is why I tell people, you probably don't want me to marry you. Now, I've married some people, but they know that when I marry them that I am just dead on serious. I'm not having fun like I do normally. I'm very serious about it. Because I'm standing with you, and you together with me standing there as a witness are telling God that you are making a covenant vow to an individual. And I push them hard. I say even to the audience where the family members are out there, you make sure they stay stuck on this. Now, I'm not trying to make anybody feel guilty. I know we've had people that have been divorced and they've got their stuff. But the truth is difficult to deal with. And here's an opportunity, let's say, if this is hurting, take this opportunity to say, hey, I've got the ability to apply correctness to this. I've got the ability to now make a right decision and do the right thing. So when God says he holds all things together, then who's going to be the source of your strength in any relationship you're in? Any, yeah, it has to be. Has to be. Let me show you some statistics. Now, these change all the time, I think. These are ones that I got that I thought were pretty decent. 98% of the people in the United States will marry. 38% of them will divorce. 79% of them will remarry. 44% of them will divorce again. Half of marriages last only 3 years. The average marriage lasts 7.2 years. And you ready for this? America has the highest divorce rate in the world. In the world. So something's wrong. Something's wrong. And I'm willing to say that the problem, this is me and I don't want to go down this rabbit trail. I think the problem is we do have it too easy. I think the problem is we have been taught that commitment is not important. Where in other countries, especially in Asia, like places like Japan and China, it's very important. Family is everything. They even worship their ancestors. 50 to 60% of relationships are dying. I think it's 35 of them are in survival mode. 35% are in survival mode. That leaves 5 to 15% of relationships are thriving. And the problem's pretty simple. Number one, God says, and you say. The ones that are thriving, God says. The ones that are failing, you say. There's no other way to say it. You can even be, this is how solid biblical principles are. You can be an atheistic, non-believing person, but if you are keeping the proper principles of relationship, your relationships will last and survive. That's how powerful biblical principles are when it comes to relationship. And compatibility is not an issue. That is a false. It's not true. And I can prove it. I was going to show you this video from the Seinfeld show where these people have this new baby and they just, oh, look at our baby. And Kramer looks at the baby and goes, because it's just ugly. And they're all like, I wish she'd stop at. When you make a decision to love someone, all of the other things take second. Your mindset shifts. It shifts to where you see them as having immense value. Love is a decision. I got a great story for you. Just thought of it. I cannot remember their names. I met them about 16 years ago. They were going to get married, and he was in college, and he was getting ready to go into the service, and he had a car wreck, and it put him on a gurney for the rest of his life, where he had to be rolled over, and his bed sores had to be taken care of, and he had to have help because he couldn't go to all the things that happens. He was just alive. She married him anyway. Now do you see? They lived the rest of their life. I knew them when they were older. She stayed with him to the very end. He had nothing to offer. Not like we would think. But she chose to love him as a young person. That is unbelievably impressive. Because love is a choice. The problem we have in our minds is we spend a lot of our time trying to figure out how to make somebody qualified to be loved. Don't we? Yeah. Don't forget we're sinners. Pride, selfishness is the number one issue. And you can tell how proud a person is by how they treat other people. I wish I could tell you that I've mastered all of this. I haven't. You can ask my wife. I got in trouble just the other day. I get in trouble pretty much every day. And I'm going to tell you why. It has to do with my personality. So I'm going to lighten this up a little bit as we wrap up, and then next week I'm going to pick up some more of this, and we're going to start working on communication skills. But I told you about the 4 temperaments. As a matter of fact, I'll read this one to you. You'll like this, I think. Wow, I don't even know where I got that from. Okay, the lion personality. And I'll give you an illustration for it to help you see it. The lion personality, their strengths tend to be they're goal-oriented, they're strong, they're direct. They're your General Pattons. They're leaders. They're the guys that, Bernard was very much a lion. He was a caloric personality trait, which is one of the terms. They see what they want what they see, and they are going to get there. That's how they think. That's their strength. Their weakness is this. They're argumentative, and they're dictatorial. Their limitations are they don't understand that their directness can hurt others, and they have a hard time expressing their real affections. Now that's your lion personality trait. That's your people that get crew cuts. That's your people that when you go sit in their office, they don't want to be friends with you. They just want to know the facts. Give me the information. I don't care what size the fish was that you caught. Tell me what I need to know. Task oriented, we're going to go do it. They're great leaders. They also leave a lot of people dead in their wake. But that's who they are. We need them actually. But they usually are the ones that demand the household function exactly the way they want it to function. And if it doesn't, they'll make everybody miserable, forcing them to do it. So that's your lion. Then you have your otter. Otters are your social creatures. Their strengths, they're people persons. They love people. They're open, positive. They love to talk. They walk in a room and it's, hey, I'm here. Hey, you guys, the party starts now. They're disorganized because they're always going, oh no, that's cool. Butterflies, squirrel. Their strengths are they're people, open and positive. Their weaknesses, they talk too much, and they are too permissive. They let people get away with things they probably shouldn't let them get away with. Their limitations are remembering past commitments and following through with discipline or decisions. Now, they also are friends with everybody but friends with no one, because their friendships tend to be very shallow. And it's like, one of the things sanguines or the otters do is they'll get in a fight and they'll make you mad, and then 5 minutes later they're looking at you like, why are you still mad? And you want to kill them for that. And I'm going to give you more on this here in a second. Golden retrievers. Golden retrievers make friends, very loyal. Their strengths are accommodating, calm, and affirming. Their weaknesses are indecisiveness, indifferent, and unable to express emotional, too soft on other people. Their limitations are seeing the need to be more assertive, holding others accountable. Now, I'm going to give a better explanation than that of the golden retriever. The golden retriever is the one who absorbs every single emotion that's around them. They actually, people that are heavily golden retriever or what's called melancholy, they will absorb the emotions around them to the point that it can kill them. And they found, and the FBI uses it, when somebody has either committed suicide or been murdered, if they can't figure out which way it went, they'll ask the friends of the individual to determine whether or not they were a melancholy personality trait, because more often than not, it's the melancholies that kill themselves. They also tend to be the ones that are geniuses in your society. They usually make great musicians, great writers, poets. They are the person that will come up to you and very nicely say, how are you doing today? How's everything? It's all right. Everything's good. That's how they are. They're the loving, mellow, laid back, calm. Okay? Then you have your last guy, which is the beaver. And beavers are funny to me, especially because they have the driest humor. Who knows Bob Newhart? Bob Newhart is a beaver. His personality is that personality. The beaver's strengths are high standards, order, respect. Their weaknesses is unrealistic expectations of self and others, too perfect. Their limitations, seeing the optimistic side of things, expressing flexibility. So here they are. They're usually engineers even, a lot of them. So now, and I've still got time, great. So now you need to understand that in your home, opposites attract. It's almost, when they don't, you have a lot of chaos. My mom and dad are the same personalities dominantly, but my dad's a little different in one way, which allowed them to survive and not kill each other. My wife and I are extreme opposites. I am the one, and here we go. I'm a caloric sanguine, or I'm a lion otter. It depends on where I am. Here on the stage, I tend to be an otter. When I'm at home, I'm a lion. And it's got me in all kinds of trouble. I tend to be that. When I'm doing business, I usually revert from being an otter and become a lion, and so much so that I actually get mean to people. That's why I don't like doing business anymore. But if you took all of these people and you put them, let's say, on a project, and I think I've given this illustration before, and you're going to see the reason for knowing this. If you put all these people on a project where they got to build a house, the first one there is going to be who? The lion. He's the first one there, and he's there before the start time, and he's already mad because everybody else isn't there. And he's going to let them know that they are destroying the project because they're not there when he got there. By golly, you do it the way I tell you to do it, when I tell you to do it, how I tell you to do it. So he's now frustrated, and he's looking around, and he's like, well, we got to that's it. Give me a hammer. I'm just going to get started. And then all of a sudden, here comes the beaver. And the beaver's going to be going, wait, put that down. We have not even studied the blueprints yet. We've got to count the nails, count the hammers, count the boards. We have to make sure everything is here before we start. And if it takes us till next month to get started, we're at least going to make sure everything was lined out before then. And by that time, the caloric or the lion is ready to kill him. They usually ignore those guys. And then here comes the sanguine. Hey, we're building a house. This is great, man. I don't know what I'm doing, but give me a board, give me a hammer. I'm just going to go nail something. And they go, and actually, believe it or not, lions tend to like otters, because they usually can get them to jump when they want them to jump. I mean, think about it. You got a lion and an otter, and the otter's like, man, we got to do something. The lion goes, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go take that castle. All right, we're going to take. I didn't think about the fact that they're going to shoot arrows at me. You know, that's how they work. And then the melancholy shows up, and he's usually got coffee or cake, and walks over to everybody and says, hey, how y'all doing? How's the family and the kids? You doing okay? You're doing fine. And they're the encouragers, and they like to serve. In your home, you're one of those. You probably already know which one you are. Your spouse does. If you do not learn that, if you don't learn your negatives and your strengths, you're going to abuse people with your negatives. I did. If you're an A-type personality, your ability to drive somebody into the ground is amazing. And then the sad thing about it, with A-type personalities, the lions, they had absolutely no idea that it was as bad as it was. They don't. I remember the day my wife locked the door on the bedroom and put the chair in front of the door and brought the dog in and found the pistol and had it under her pillow. We had had a fight. And I left. I had to get out. I was that angry. But I came back and I found out she did that. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And she said this to me, and I had never thought about it. She said, if you could see your face, you would have been just as scared as I was. So I had to go think about that. And I didn't have to do a lot of fighting in school because nobody really fought me. Now, they could have all probably whipped me, but I think that face paid off. But that's the point with a lion. They don't know most of the time what they're doing. They only see the task needs to be done. Now, there are homes here in our church, and I've still got plenty of time, guys. There are people I know in our church that are lion personalities married to people that are beavers. They are the lion personality, and they are married to somebody who's subdued, quiet, and calm, and can't function unless things are a certain way. You almost think they're lazy sometimes because they don't move until they feel things are right, and they are real good at subtle anger and subtle rage. They could be really angry at you, and you won't hear a word out of them, but they are fighting you, and you don't know it until you pay attention, until you really watch. You know who we have in our church that has that personality? You would think Tim Pope wouldn't be that kind of a guy, but he's extroverted, the sanguine, the otter. But he is subtle with his anger and he's very meticulous about certain things. Very selective about what is important and what's not. Tim's fun. He is not a lion at all. We've got another person here that's an easy lion identification, but I'm not going to say any names. But when you get to the point that you understand the other personality you're dealing with, things will start getting better because you understand finally that they're doing what's normal to them. And you can't make them be like you. It won't happen. It'll frustrate them. It'll diminish their ability to even have a relationship with you. You will slowly chew away at the root of the relationship until you kill it. And then things happen where they either leave or they go dead silent on you. They won't talk to you anymore. They won't dialogue with you anymore because they can't, because you won't. You won't. There are 6 things, and I want you to write these down. There are 6 things. And like I said, I'll pick up some more of this next Sunday. There are 6 things that are involved in communication. Gary Smalley said this, and this is really good. You start with small talk. And small talk is simply, hey, how's your day? Fine. Then you move from small talk to facts. So tell me what happened. Well, Billy Bob over here did this today, and he did this today, and blah, blah, blah. So you go small talk, facts. Then you go to opinions, and that's where the problem starts. Opinions are risky because you both may have different opinions on subject matters. The cool thing about that third one is that is the best one for building a good relationship. Isn't that interesting? Conflict or disagreement properly reacted to is actually healthy and builds your understanding and builds your ability to relate to that person that's different than you. It's good to have those moments, but if the reaction is wrong, then it will destroy the relationship. It'll drive you apart. How do you do that? Where your words and your actions are neglected. Okay, stay with me now. It's okay to have an opinion, but your words and your actions have the ability to destroy a relationship, even if you're right. Because if I'm using words that are hateful, unkind, disrespectful, dishonoring, if I'm using body language that is hateful, disrespectful, and unkind, it will produce that. It will produce that. Now, I just gave you a big, big, big secret. Big secret. I'm good at doing the wrong words and the wrong body language. That's what I got in trouble for the other day. I thought my wife did something I didn't like, and I came out of the garage where she had just pulled in, and she saw my face, and I got both guns, which she's learned to do that with me. She knows she needs to slap me whenever I'm like that. And then she goes and loves on the dogs, to let me know she loved the dogs. Words and body language. Word choices. Now here's what your word choices do to you. They either say that you are looking for a solution with your partner to solve the problem, or they say you're the problem and you are against me, or you're not for me and what I want and you're causing the problem here. That doesn't work. What works is when you think in terms of there is a problem here and the solution is that both of us use the right words, the right amount of honor and respect to solve the problem together. Because remember, you were sinners that got married, and the whole point of being in a relationship is to help each other as you're struggling with things. That's the whole point of it. My wife is not my enemy. Even though I disagree with her on stuff, even though I may think she talks to me wrong, she's not my enemy. She is me. That's how you have to think. She is and we need to work together to solve it. So if I need to help her or she needs to help me see the actual problem and then together work to solve whatever that problem is, you're catching the little foxes that Solomon's wife was talking about. You have 3 more, and then I'll stop with this because I've given you a lot. Feelings, okay, needs, and beliefs. And we'll talk sometime in the future here about how men think differently than women, because we do, until we learn how to think differently. And women, same with you, you have to learn how to think like we think. Otherwise, you'll never communicate effectively. We're not female, you're not male, aside from what the world tries to tell you. It is our responsibility as people in relationships to understand the feelings of our spouse in reference to the subject matter, the need that needs to be met, and why they believe what they believe. Did you catch that? It's our responsibility to understand their feelings, their need, and why they think the way they think. Sometimes that's hard. Sometimes you're going to find out that your spouse has a serious issue that just needs to be dealt with from the past. It's there, guys. Everybody in this room is dealing with something from their past that negatively affected them. There isn't a person in this room. Now, a choleric personality trait or the lion's going to go, I don't have any problems. Because they're always going forward. No, this is what I'm doing. This is not an issue to me. I love that in cholerics. That's a great lion tendency. But there's other people that don't have the ability to do that. The extroverts get their feelings hurt when people don't like them. They actually get very scared. They withdraw. What do? Sometimes they get more boisterous, more energetic, because I got to get you to like me. That's what the extroverts do that are the otters. The beavers become subtly aggressive and very slow moving, very meticulous. Like I said, they're the ones that will come out with a great slam on your character, and it was really subtle and clever. They're good at it. When you take the time, and I learned this from Young Life, when you earn the right to be heard, you will be heard. Again, do not miss that statement. I had something I was going to give you here, and it's still up here, but It's in reference to how men respond and how women respond, but we'll pick it up next week. One of the things that's happening in your relationships all the time, and emotional intelligence is a factor here. Okay? And most people don't think about the fact that they may be emotionally ignorant. And I'm not saying that mean. Literally lacking in emotional intelligence. One of the things you have to learn more than anything else is how to properly listen with your head, not reacting with your feelings. You have to hear. Again, more men end up divorced where the woman divorced the man and the man had no idea it was that serious. That is a communication issue. That is the male not listening. That is the male not absorbing what's being said in both body language and words. Because we don't think that way. We think we'll just fix it, right? Guys just think in terms of, well, just tell me the problem. I'll fix it. You guys look at us and think, what a jerk. He doesn't listen to me. Do you know that's one of your number one fears as females? It's one of your number one core fears is that you will not really be heard or understood. Did you think about it? It's true, isn't it, ladies? You can't stand it when you are saying something to your husband and he does not hear the intensity of what you're saying. Now, you need to be merciful with us because we can't help it. Because we think from a different side of the brain than you. And we'll pick this up next week. But you need to understand that more often than not, when you think your husband's just being an absolute jerk, he's not doing it on purpose. It is because we cannot understand your form of communication. It really is true. And then we can't understand why you can't understand how much we love you. And you look at us and go, well, how's that love? Well, you don't understand, just like we don't understand. I gave you a lot. I'm tired. I'm sorry that I'm tired, but we'll pick up more of it next week. Believe me, if you start learning the principles, and Ephesians 4 is your homework, by the way. It's written to the church, but those statements in Ephesians 4, 1, 2, I believe 6. Oh, he brought it up. That's your homework. You're prisoners of the Lord. I urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you have been called. Don't think religiously here. Don't think ministerial calling. Think in terms of you are a Christian. You have been called to a lifestyle that is conducive to your calling as a Christian. You're a Christian. See it? Which you have been called with all humility. If you're not humble in your conversations with your spouse, something's wrong. With all gentleness, if you're not thinking in terms of being, all of that applies in a relation, with patience, bearing with one another in love. That's not just the church. That's everything relationally, especially in your home. So go home and just really ponder that. Work on it. Develop it. I suggest to you that you sit down with a piece of paper and a pen and ask yourself, how close am I to this? Look at that. Eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit and bond of peace. How's that going in the home? I don't want to say that. That'd get me in trouble. There are lots of people that should have been here today that need to start hearing this that aren't here. Those of you that are here, my hope is that you actually heard and didn't just listen. Because I'm telling you, if you keep doing it the way you've been doing it and you're in crisis in your relationships, it's not going to change. It won't change. It'll only change as if when you finally agree with God and say, okay, I'm going to do it your way. 37 years I've been married, and I am the biggest jerk on the planet the first years of my life all the way into my 30s. And I was a jerk. I've seen this work. It has saved my neck. multiple times, because my wife applies this stuff. I'm not kidding you. And it has allowed me to grow and learn. I've said enough. Let's pray ourselves out. Thank you again for coming. I hope I hope you got something. I've got more pages. Lord, my prayer is for restoration and healing in the lives of people that are struggling in their relationships. Lord, my prayer is that those of us that have been in them for a long time, Lord, that you would maintain them. Thank you for the reminding of how we should think. I do pray, Lord, for our children and their relationships, that we would have the wisdom to teach them how to love. But I know, Lord, like most people, we need to first learn how. So I pray that as we develop this, that it becomes more and more clear to all of us as a church how to communicate in a correct manner, how to love our spouses, how to love each other correctly, how to love our community correctly, because it's life. It's blessing. And again, thank you for all the things you do for us, because you love us. Amen. Yeah, I'm going to go home and sleep.